Our next caller wanted to talk about hypocrisy a little bit, and this is Harrison in New Hampshire. Bear with me, Harrison. I'm getting you on the line. You are on the line, Harrison. What's going on?
Hey, Harrison.
Hey, Dan. Thanks for having me, and great transition there.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good, so thanks. What's up, Harrison? What do you want to talk about?
I was thinking about this a while ago, and I took all these little notes because I was watching your show. You guys seem, pretty open-minded about things. But, you hear people all the time just, criticize someone like, oh, they're such a hypocrite. You hear them. It's like the gotcha moment on the news. Like, we caught this person. Look what they said years ago, and they said this now. And you also hear people say all the time, well, everyone's a hypocrite. So I'm wondering, what's so bad about being a hypocrite? Why does that make someone such a bad person if we're all doing it, if we all fail to live up to our own standards sometimes?
Well, I think there's a difference between, failing to live up to our own standards because we're human and that's the human condition, and using your standards as a ploy to take advantage of situations. So like if I'm a Christian, right? If I'm a pastor and I'm saying you have to listen to me because I'm God in the flesh here. I'm speaking for God and I'm the local authority here. And you use that position of power to embezzle money or God forbid, sexually abuse someone or doing it that way, then that's the kind of hypocrisy that people should be called out for. Because it's like, hey, you claim to be the moral arbiter here. You're the one that's telling other people how to do this right. And you're blatantly in disregard with that. It's different if some guy on the street committed a crime versus someone who is purposely putting out specific virtues and rules to follow. So I think there is kind of a difference there. What do you think, Johnny?
I think that's a good point. I also like to think that people change their minds about things when they get new evidence or as they internalize things over the course of time. There's nothing wrong with changing your mind if you believe that your new position is more accurately reflects the world or your experiences. So I think the problem comes in when people... Some politicians like to say that they're always right. They've never been wrong, that there's a weakness in admitting that you're wrong. And I think there's a strength in admitting that you're wrong, acknowledging it, and then say what changed your mind. We have a problem with hypocrisy, I think, because it sets a double standard, doesn't it, for different people? And doesn't it strike you as being inherently unjust for someone to make you live by one standard while they get to live by another entirely different standard? And we have a problem with hypocrites because we don't know what rules they're playing by, right? We don't know if they can trust them from one moment to the next because they're just going to flip the script and change their mind and never admit it. So, no, I don't think hypocrisy is okay because we all do it. I think we are all striving to be our best individual, and we need to be honest. Okay, I changed my mind. Let me acknowledge it. And I don't know. I don't know if that answers the question.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know if it's a. Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead, Harris.
No.
I just don't know. I'm not talking about even specifically like changing your mind. Like say you think drinking is morally wrong and it's like something bad for you to do, but you fall off the wagon or whatever and you do it. Oh. You're a hypocrite, maybe not following your own standards, your own moral guidelines. But does that make you a bad person for losing that? And also, I want to go back, Dan, you said, oh, it's different for a priest rather than just some guy on the street. I've noticed there's this sliding scale sort of hypocrisy. If someone has more wealth or power, when they do something that's saying hypocrisy so much, I'm like losing meaning of the word. When someone does something like that, it's way worse than if just, your friend did it or something.
Yeah, I think that's true. Because earlier you said, you asked if that makes them, let's go back to the first one and then I'll go to the second one. does someone who drinks and says that drinking is wrong, does that make them a bad person? That's a complicated question for me, because my ethical understandings, my kind of the moral systems that I understand is I don't think that there really are bad people, quote unquote, in that sense. I think that's too broad of a term that doesn't really mean as much. I had to view people
act like it. They talk about it that way. They
do, and I think they're wrong when they do it too.
Them bad.
Yeah, I think that's a wrong way of looking at things, because I try to view people as much as I can by their actions and separate those actions from the people themselves, and I like to look at things that way. But I know that's not how people commonly view it, and there's a conflation of language there too when we talk about actions versus people and stuff like that.
Well, what about this? Like, let's just stick with alcohol. Okay. I don't personally have any issues with alcohol. Alcohol abuse is a problem. It's a disease. But let's say I believe that drinking alcohol is wrong and no one should do it. Right. And I claim to be a moral authority. I claim to have superior morals. Right. I think, and then I drink alcohol. Right. Isn't that really the problem? To claim to be a moral authority and to hold myself to the same standard, and then to claim to be morally superior. I think that's really the problem.
Right.
Like vegans who eat nothing but sugar.
I guess sugar you could still be vegan and eat sugar.
It's be a very healthy vegan.
Yeah. No, but it's not an animal byproduct.
Well, a lot of vegans push it because they say it's healthy, not just for animal rights. I'm not. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah,
that's not the only thing.
I think I get what you're saying. On a technical thing, you're wrong, because vegans was the animal byproduct thing. But no, I get what you're saying, right? Yeah, the point I was going to make is, look, I have a platform here. If I'm talking about if I say something really racist, or I'm supporting a racist belief or something, that's going to have more of an effect on the world than the guy in my apartment next to me just talking to his friend. So like there's a bigger, we put a bigger emphasis on public figures or people who speak in large audience, because we feel like that there is a responsibility there for them to keep actions with what society considers to be right. So because you were talking about the sliding scale, like people with more wealth and people with more influence, should we be harsher critics? And I think, yes, in general, we should. And I would want to hold that same standard for myself. I try to, I'm not Mr. Rogers, but I try to uphold a standard of conversation when I talk to people on this show. I don't try to shut people down as easily. I want to try to give people a chance to speak and hear their ideas. But if the next week I come on and I'm just like fucking yelling and screaming, and I just, yeah, there's a problem there. And I would think you would be right to call me a hypocrite. But, that's just my take, but other people might feel differently.
And you would be saddled with the label of being a hypocrite.
Yeah.
And what consequence would there be for you? Well, people wouldn't respect you as much.
Yeah.
They would think that you think you're above their criticism.
Or I'm just unreliable. I'm not as trustworthy.
Has hypocrite sort of lost some of its impact in meeting when people use it more, or when people just get called it more from their actions? Like
I think so.
Remember years ago, I don't know. I think it's just, it doesn't mean as much, or people feel more okay being a hypocrite because, well, this person, that person is as well. So what's the big deal?
You might be right.
I'm not even saying I agree. I'm not even saying I agree with the point. Like, oh, go be a hypocrite. It's fine. There's just things I've been thinking about, so I wanted to bring them up to you guys.
Yeah, I think you have a point. When we use words enough and we don't use them in a specific enough way, then they do kind of lose their meaning over time. We're talking about religion earlier. That is a term that's been so ubiquitous, people get confused, and people call things that are religious, even though in one sense they really aren't. So I think the same definitely applies to hypocrites. I think it's a word, especially in the past few years, we've used a lot with people, and it can be tarnished if you don't fully understand where the hypocrisy is, or if you just flat out disagree with, if you're like, no, I don't think that person's being a hypocrite, and then it kind of loses meaning to you.
I think you're right. All words lose meaning if they're misused. The word like genius, every single pop star that writes their own songs is a genius. Really.
Mm-hmm.
No, they just might be talented. They might work hard, but are they truly a genius? And so, what is a genius? When we run into one, the word loses its meaning. So, how do you fix that? Be more cautious in your speech. Only call true geniuses, people who are above and beyond what like I can write a song right now, but I won't be a genius if I do it. So don't call me a genius, even if you really like the song. And if you don't agree with someone's opinion and that person has held a different opinion in the past and they've admitted that they've changed their mind, maybe withhold from calling them a hypocrite. Just say, well, this person changed their mind.
That's a genius point, Johnny. Just a genius point.
I don't want to take up too much time. I just like throw this other thing out there. If you're honest about being a hypocrite, are you still one? If you're saying, well, yeah, I'm not doing everything I should be, but that's just me right now. Are you still being a hypocrite?
Isn't that just an excuse to get away with bad actions and just say, hey, I never claimed to be a good guy? And then somehow let me put it at this point, but like you said, Dan, you said you would like take money from the Bill Gates Foundation before. What if that was, I don't know anything about that foundation. So let me just throw out, what if that was some giant corporation you saw as evil, but they're saying they'll just give you all this money for any reason, but you could do all kinds of good with that. That's you being a hypocrite by taking money from a company you may not support. But is it worth it?
If I'm taking,
if you could use it well.
I'm going to disagree with your premise just a little bit, because if I'm taking money from a company I don't support, that's taking away money from the company I don't support. So I would totally be in favor of that.
Well, actually, if taking a handout from a company you don't support, you're being supported by them at that point.
I see what you mean. It's like a reliance on something that, like if I was a scam artist, and I'm making money off of that. Yeah. Like I get, there's similarities there. I see what you mean. That's tough. I think I would want to know that, I don't know, because if the money is going to good things, to me, that makes it worth it in the end. But
that's probably some but you guys have a fallacy for everything, don't you?
Maybe if it's unethically sourced, that might be a problem too. And I do think that that's tough. I don't know, Johnny, what do you think?
Yeah, I struggle with this question all the time. When it comes to celebrities and the Me Too and all this stuff, there's a musician that I know of, because he's famous, David Bowie, for example. David Bowie is perhaps a genius, perhaps just was a talented musician. Had, from what I have read, sex with a 13-year-old girl, right? A lot of my friends are like, well, that was a long time ago. It was the 70s. Well, he's David Bowie. What's that?
Those just sound like excuses.
They sound like excuses to me. Yeah. Am I entitled to enjoy David Bowie music if I find that behavior reprehensible? And I don't listen to David Bowie music anymore. And I am disappointed. Yeah, I don't. I haven't played anything. And when it comes on my little stream, I fast forward it, even though I love Space Oddity, the album, not necessarily the song. And because I feel that I would be a hypocrite if I made a special excuse for myself to enjoy David Bowie when he had sex with a 13-year-old girl who was drunk, according to the reports. Now,
so that's a moral standard you put on yourself.
Yeah. And I struggle with that one because he's dead. He's not benefiting from it at all. As much as I have enjoyed his music, this is a weird position. And none of my friends agree with me on this one. I kind of want David Bowie's to go into the dustbin of memory, because I don't care if you're brilliant. I don't care if you've done some good stuff, unless he formed a foundation to prevent child molestation.
All history in the dustbin then, because so much bad things happened.
I'm not throwing in the dustbin. It's my wishes. I think, should I put a plaque up every time I listen to
like the people who want to tear down the statues of like the founding fathers, they weren't perfect, but So that's tearing down the history, tearing down the past because it wasn't perfect.
Yeah.
I struggle with it, Harrison.
Yeah.
I struggle with it. I'm with you. You don't want to destroy the past because it wasn't perfect, because the past is disgusting, and it got us where we are today.
Yeah.
I struggle with it. I don't know
I'm
the
with
answer.
you. I'm with you, Harrison. I agree with you. I think that I think it would be hypocritical to tear down a lot of past, this kind of memorabilia and stuff if we understand that this is the history and we need to talk about it, because most people in history, pretty much everybody, is problematic to one degree or another. Now, with the Confederate statues, it's interesting because a lot of those were funded by white supremacist groups and stuff in the 20th century and aren't the same kind of historical landmarks that people think it is. But that's
Well,
a
you could
that's
just
a
put
side
it down
thing.
and give it back to them.
I don't know. Yeah, I guess if it belongs to a certain group or something, but
Can you contextualize it? Can you contextualize those monuments in a way that gives the full picture? Can you contextualize David Bowie?
You could put up a little plaque or something.
Yeah,
maybe.
Yeah, I mean, because we have like a Holocaust museum is not there to show how great the Holocaust was. It's show to remembrance of what these events were.
So people don't forget, so it doesn't happen again. That's the idea.
And that's important. I think that's super important. I think we need to have those things so that we can think about our past and move forward. So
you have to keep the Confederate statues up. Say, look, this is who used to lead this place. Don't let that happen again in one way or another.
Maybe, but a lot of the history specifically of those statues is very, very interesting because it's not like the Holocaust museums. Because the Holocaust museums have the intention of people to learn from their past. Those statues, and oftentimes their intention was to show people, hey, whites are still here. It's like, hey, we still own these lands. We're we're in control, no matter what those Yankees say. There's a different context to that, to the history.
I'm not sure about the Confederate ones. I wasn't aware of any specific events I was talking about. You hear a lot of people saying, "Oh, Thomas Jefferson, George Washington." Those are people that, or even Abe Lincoln. It's like, are you really going to tear down their statues? Are they the bad guys now?
Yeah. It's and I agree with you. It's tough. It's like, it's hard to find the correct demarcation line, but I'm with you in general, in spirit, Harrison. I think in general, we need to keep these things because we need to know, we need to understand it and learn from history. Does it have it? The downside trade-off is it does inspire people to do terrible things too. And that might be a consequence we have to live with in order to preserve our history. But people interpret that in different ways. Like in Germany, you can't pretty much not see anything is gone. Like, they take control over the places because one, that's where a lot of Nazi groups congregate and stuff like with these old buildings and these old places. And so they kind of wipe a lot of that too, because they don't want to inspire violence amongst their people. They don't want to create a fear there. And that's something I think about too. It's like, but that is also part of the history there too. So I don't know. It's tough.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Is preserving history a good in itself, or does it serve a function of creating the world we want to live in? I mean, can you contextualize, can there be a museum of the Nazi and it would preserve the history and yet not further the advancement of Nazism, which we know is horrifying? The Germans made a trade-off. They said no.
Finger wagging putting up up there.
Yeah, right. At the very least.
Animatronics wagging their finger at them.
Yeah. So it's people have different takes on it, and we always come to the end.
I was expecting to go to. I was just so surprised by, no offense, just surprised that you're willing to cut Bowie out of your life just because he's such a great artist, like you said.
Sucks. So it sucks, man. Hey, we were talking earlier how we're all on a personal journey. I don't know where I'm going to end up on my stupid little individualistic opinion about David Bowie. I don't know where I'm going to end up, but right now it feels dirty. That's it.
So if you do listen to him at some point, will you consider yourself a hypocrite? Is it okay if someone calls you a hypocrite? Or do you just change your mind?
Ooh,
Where is that
I don't know,
line
man.
drawn? Where you just change your mind, and when are you a hypocrite?
what a great question.
It's a great question, Harrison.
What a great-
I don't know. I'm an attorney, so I'll find a way to
That's a great answer to a great
Yeah.
question. I like that too. Well, Harrison, this was a great thought-provoking conversation. So glad you got to, even though this wasn't the direction you expected, I really enjoyed this.
Yeah.
So thanks for bringing up the topic, and I appreciate it.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, I'm really glad I was able to get on, and thanks if you guys had to run long for me. Hopefully, I'll be able to call in again sometime.
Totally worth it, man. Totally worth it. Thanks again for talking to us. Gosh, there's so many directions you could go there. We've said that a couple times now, but seriously, like the idea of how we manage ourselves in our society, what we consider right and wrong in terms of, I mean, we talked about history, but just talking about, I mean, ethics in general is tricky enough, but historical preservations and how we recognize, I mean, I feel like when you were talking about David Bowie, I feel the same way about Louis C.K. You know, I used to love Louis C.K. I thought it was super funny. And I was watching some old Portlandia a few weeks ago, and the episode with Louis C.K. came on. And I watched the whole thing, but there was a part of me that was like, I can't look at this the same way anymore. The context has changed. And it sucks. Yeah.
I was really into Immanuel Kant for a while. I was beating my head against the brick wall that is Kantian philosophy. And then I read somewhere that he was a super duper white supremacist, right? He was a man of his times.
I believe it.
Does that mean his ideas on philosophy were wrong? Well, does his anti-African ideas permeate his philosophy? Should I delete Immanuel Kant as a thinker from my personal intellectual journey because he's a shit or he was a shit when it came to racist thoughts? I don't know. I don't think so. But I think that philosophical thought, scientific thought, historical things are more important than David Bowie. Or even Louis C.K.
Maybe. Yeah. I mean, culture and music is still important too. You know,
it is.
It's a reflection of how we treat our artists is a reflection of our society as well.
Yeah.
So
that's
our history. But that is all the calls that we had for tonight on this episode of Truth Wanted. So thanks everybody who called in tonight. Johnny, thanks again to you for being on the show. This was really cool. And didn't get any sovereign citizen calls, but learning some more about that world is fascinating, really crazy. Did not know about the gold trimmed American flag thing. I might set up a gold trimmed American flag outside my apartment just so I can say that any court I have in here just doesn't matter. So
right. Thanks for having me on, Dan. This was a lot of fun, and thanks for all the callers. I think this was fantastic. Yeah, our conversations went in so many directions, and we could have gone in so many more directions.
I know.
Great call, great subjects.
I feel that way every week. But Johnny, if people want to get in touch with you, and hopefully you'll be able to join us here on Discord in a second. But if people want to find you and want to follow you, see what you're doing, where do they need to go?
Well, you can email me at johnnyp@atheist-community.org.
It's org.
It's org.
You're an org, baby.
Yeah, I'm part of the org. Send me a message if you got something you want to ask me or some thoughts you wanted to share. I'm happy. I'll respond. I like that stuff.
Yeah, and if you want to send me a message, you can do that with me as well. The email for that is truth@atheist-community.org. And of course, if you haven't already, please like and subscribe to the channel. You can also find this show on iTunes, Spotify, wherever else you get your podcast. Please leave a nice review. It helps us get the show out there, get the word out there as well. And again, you know, we got the merch store. We have the Patreon as well, patreon.com/truthwanted. It helps show all the folks that help run the ACA that, hey, Truth Wanted is a show worth preserving and worth investing in. So please do that. And also join the channel. We have our memberships now as well. And last but not least, I would be remiss without thanking the wonderful, awesome, hardworking crew that helps make this show happen every week. So shout out to our producer, our audio cam. There's Mark. He's in the studio by himself. The poor guy. I mean, look at him. It's sad. He's, he's for those of you who are listening, Mark is doing a dance here, and it's really funny on camera. But yeah, Mark's in the studio by himself helping make this show happen. I'm at home here. Vern's at another place. Our call screener's at another place. We got people all over the place right now. But I'm super thankful for the guys that help make this show happen every week. And thanks again, Johnny, for being on the show. If you could summarize and leave, well, not summarize, but if you want to leave everybody with a message to say goodbye to, your final thoughts, after a great episode of Truth Wanted, what would you want to say to the people?
Oh, put me on the spot. Okay, here's my final thoughts. All right. Everyone disagrees on something. Try to find something that you agree with and gently discuss. Don't side table conflict. Try to find a way to communicate with each other in a friendly, supportive, positive way. You don't have to agree with your friends on every subject. Do it, disagree when it's safe to do so. And you can come to some new understanding together. We all have to live together. So give it a try if it's safe to do so. And tune in to the nonprofits, watch Atheist Vanguard and all the other shows that are on the ACA channels.
Yes.
Because we love to have the viewers, people calling in, and there's a lot of good information out there. It's not just Truth Wanted, it's not just AXP.
Yep. And speaking of other shows, remember, tomorrow night we are doing a game night with everybody here and also some other folks. I'm going to be there. It's going to be live at 6:00 Central Time. We're playing some Quiplash and maybe some other things. I think it's just the Quiplash. I'm not sure. I'm awesome at Quiplash. Again, I won the test game that we did earlier because I'm just that good. So be on my team. Come, he's talking about, don't take sides, take my side. All right. Support me in that chat because I'm going to be facing against everybody else. And I want to win that prize. So thanks again, everybody. We'll see you on Discord and always keep wanting the truth. I'll see you next time.
What are we doing, man? What are we doing?
No, you're done.